Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Labor, Health, and Social Services Committee. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and Clayton, if you would go ahead and call the roll.
Representative Clouston.
Here.
Representative Guggenmost.
Here.
Representative Heft.
Here.
Representative McCann.
Here.
Representative Ottman.
Present.
Representative Stivar.
Excused.
Representative Wasserberger.
Present.
Representative Yen.
Here.
Chairman Rodriguez Williams.
Here. All right, thank you. So again, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and, like to welcome all of our visitors. We are going to take on 3 bills this morning, and it looks like we have a lot of testimony and public engagement on all 3 bills. So I'm going to go ahead and read our rules. And as you might have noticed when you signed in front of the door, we do expect decorum. So if you have any questions or would like to read those are in the front of the meeting room. Our meetings are open to discussion for all viewpoints, and the rules of decorum are in place to ensure that everyone can express their opinions free from abusive or distracting behavior. I'd like to invite you to take a moment and read through those decorum rules, but I'll highlight just a few for those of you that are in the audience and didn't have that time to do that. Although it may seem an awkward formality, speakers will address their comments and questions to the chairman, not all individual committee members or to others that are in the audience. This helps us avoid personalities and comments of personal nature. Comments will be directed to the issue under discussion by the committee. Any distracting comments on an unrelated side of issues are out of order, and I will call them out of order. Speakers will avoid personal criticism, ridicule, or name-calling directed at anyone else in attendance at the meeting. This includes comments of a personal nature directed at other speakers, audience members, or members of the committee. For audience members, we expect you to refrain from any behavior that disrupts the orderly conduct of our meeting. Specifically, the rules prohibit speaking out when another person is talking, carrying on loud and distracting side conversations, shouting, clapping, or booing in response to any testimony or speaker comments. Our general guideline is simple, so that everyone conducts themselves in a civil and respectable manner at times during our meeting. So thank you. And for our members of the committee, this is our first committee, and I just remind you all to address the chairman first. So, all right, we will now take on our first bill. Oh, and I will also I will state that we do have many people that would like to testify on the first bill, in addition to several that have registered through Zoom. So we'll hear from those folks as well. So I am going to limit time for everybody. My good vice chairman, Representative Ottman, is going to be the timer here. We're going to limit testimony to 2 minutes for everybody because of the number of people that want to testify. I am going to abide by our Speaker of the House's request that's been made of chairman, and that basically means that we will introduce the bill, and then we will hear from the public, and then, I'm sorry, we'll hear from department heads, agencies, the public, and then any lobbyists. So we'll go ahead and begin. We will move House Bill 32, titled One is a Woman Act. It'll now be on the table for consideration, and I would like to invite Representative Lean to the podium. Thank you for joining us here this morning, Representative Lean. If you would please go ahead and introduce us to your bill, and we would invite you to walk us through it and describe, I guess, page by page, what your bill does.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. I am Representative Lean, and I'm here from House District 38, and I'm carrying legislation that codifies into law a definition of male and female. This is based on your biological sex at birth. So let's walk through the bill. The first page is just an overview of what we're doing. The next page walks us through. The first definition you would get to is female, and I did offer an amendment. Is now the time you want that?
We'll save that for the end.
Okay. The first definition is female, the next one is male. It then continues on through page 3, where it gives us mother, father, that we are the same but not identical, and that we are inherently unequal, but that we want to be fair with everything that we're doing. And then as we move on to page 4, it talks about making sure that we have safe spaces, that we have our prisons, our athletics, our locker rooms, rape crisis centers, restrooms, and other areas of safety and privacy that are implicated with the result of separate accommodations. This would make sure that when the state has a prison for males and a state has a prison for females, that they are of the same nature, but they are separated so that we don't have any kind of lawsuits that could occur from there. It would ultimately save the state's money. And then it just goes into an enactment date that it would be effective as soon as signed into law. Article 4, Section 8 of the Wyoming Constitution. I do have an amendment to make, and I would like to encourage the committee to move it as amended. Do you want all of the testimony for that? I'm not sure where you want the amendment, Madam Chairman, I'll tell you that.
Thank you, Representative Lean. We'll go ahead and save, we do have copies up here of the amendment, and I will save that to the end when we work the bill and see if there are any committee members that would like to adopt that amendment, so.
Okay, just a little background on the bill. This proposed legislation simplifies and defines male and female. It does not seek to limit the rights or the privileges of other groups based on definition. The Supreme Court has never defined sex to include gender identity. This has nothing to do with gender identity. This is just male and female. As you see in the Wyoming Constitution, in Article 6, it talks a lot about women's suffrage and equal protection under the law. This also protects our men and our males and boys. It's not just for women. I want you to know that in this bill, many people think that this is about the LGBTQ AI plus community, and it is not. This protects everyone. As you see, the most intense person that can harm a child is a perpetrator that has not been caught in the past. And if you have the ability under the guise of this community to enter a restroom as a trans individual, that puts a lot of people at risk. And so we are trying to protect everybody, including that community, to make sure that we don't have somebody causing them harm by using their name when it was unintended. The Wyoming Constitution gives us the ability to set forth definitions, and we need to do so because in Wyoming law, over 200 times is male and female referenced, and this gives the judiciary system something to work off of. So I encourage today, as amended, if you would please consider the amendment. The definition is an obligation that we need to our judiciary system, that it is constitutional to be able to protect our male and female rights, and that it is equal protection within the equality state. And with that, I yield to the floor.
Thank you, Representative Lean. Does the committee have any questions of the representative regarding the content of her bill? Representative Yin.
Madam Chairman, thank you. Representative Lean, thank you for being here, and congratulations on being the very first bill that we hear here. So you know that we've had this bill last year, and my questions on that bill, which I don't think I participated in any committee hearing for it, but the questions I have is the same questions then that I have for you now, which is I'm unsure of what this bill does. So you mentioned prisons. You also mentioned bathrooms. I'm not sure how it would apply to bathrooms, but it says notwithstanding any other provision of law, so meaning that it applies to basically every single law in the state, but I'm not sure what laws we have specific to male and female. Can you help me understand which laws that this would actually apply to besides prisons? I think prisons, I understand. Bathrooms, I don't know if we have any laws or rules around bathrooms. But anything else that you can help me elucidate what this bill would actually do would be great. Thank you.
Representative Lien.
Madam Chairman, Representative Yin, this bill gives us the opportunity to define male and female so that within any state-run building, we can make sure that we have appropriate restrooms or locker rooms, or that we have private spaces for those individuals that need it to be able to carry on about their day in a protective and safe manner, that it keeps the state from being open to lawsuits, and that we offer law enforcement the opportunity to protect individuals that do come into contact with an unforeseen circumstance of the wrong person in the wrong restroom and how uncomfortable that could make somebody. We're giving the judicial system the opportunity to have a definition in law to be able to refer to when needed.
Madam Chairman, may I follow up?
Follow up, Representative Yin.
Representative Lean, so I guess I'm still confused. What rules and regulations, what agencies have rules and regulations around who can use what bathroom, or define who can use what bathroom?
Representative Lin.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, Representative Yin, I do not know of a current standing law that says one bathroom over the other. This is protecting the state. We do have signage outside of our restrooms within state buildings that already say male and female, or man, woman, and we would like to codify into law the definition of what that means. And so those people, the people understand who goes into which restroom.
If I may.
Follow up, Representative Yin.
I don't want to keep belaboring the point, but so let's say I walk into the women's bathroom here with this law in place. Does a sheriff say that they can disallow me from that bathroom, and based on what rule and regulation? Is it just because of the sign outside the door? Or is there, you don't know of an actual statute or rule that a sheriff would arrest me under?
Representative Lin.
Representative, or Chairman, Representative Yin, there is currently not a statute on the books. There is proposed legislation under this session, and I am hopeful that it will also come before this committee and that we may be able to get it passed. Hence, the amendment to the definition of male and female that you have in front of you, that amendment matches that current legislation that is proposed, so that there is no debate over the definition of male and female. I am hopeful that that legislation will also come forward, but that this legislation merely gives a definition for the judiciary system to be able to use it when necessary in their courtrooms.
Any additional questions from the committee for Representative Lin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Representative Lena. Thank you and welcome, and congratulations on your election. I was just curious, you were saying that in this bill, it would essentially save money for the state. Could you just go into detail about that a little bit?
Representative Lin.
Chairman, Representative Wasserberger, this legislation gives us the opportunity to protect the spaces that the state oversees. If we do not codify into law male and female, and we do not give the judiciary system the opportunity to understand the clear intent of what a male and a female is, we open ourselves up for a lawsuit from an individual that ends up harmed from one person to another who may be in the wrong restroom, wrong prison, wrong state school for young women and young men. And I do not want to see the state end up in a lawsuit where it would harm the taxpayers, because the taxpayers ultimately pay that legislation, paid for that litigation. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Representative Wasserberger.
Thank you. Yes, it does. Thank you, Representative Ling.
Any additional questions from the committee? Yeah, Representative Clauston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative, for being here, handling this tough topic that we dealt with last year as well. I have a question from one of my constituents, and question being is their young adult child has fully transitioned from male to female. if they go to our rec center was the question, which locker room would they be using?
Representative Lynn.
Madam Chairman, Representative Clauston, I don't have the clear answer for that is if the rec center is run by the state and the city, then the definition would be biological sex based on their birth certificate. If it's a private entity, then the state can't control what bathrooms the business tells people they can and can't use. I am aware that most businesses have an ADA or a family facility at this point, and I would imagine that that individualized restroom would be the appropriate answer.
Thank you for the clarification.
All right, if there's no further questions from the committee, we're going to move on to any state agencies or current legislators that would like to come up to the mic. Yeah, Representative Lucas, come on up. Please state your name and you will have 2 minutes to testify.
Good morning, Madam Chair, and thank you. Good morning, members of the committee. I'm Ann Lucas, and I'm the representative for House District 43 here in Cheyenne. We all know what a woman is, but the fact that our government, our federal government, has changed the definition of woman now requires a new Wyoming law to codify the protections that women have fought over for decades. I know a little bit about being a real woman. I am one, although I'm not a biologist. But I've worked in the business world for years, and I've seen unequal treatment and salaries for male over female coworkers. But at least I knew I could safely go to the bathroom and shower at the gym without my privacy being invaded. And I knew that my daughters were safe playing sports in schools and weren't going to get concussions playing volleyball against male players. We fought for our rights for years. Title IX was passed in 1972 to give women's sports equal opportunity to men's sports. But this isn't just about sports titles. Title IX has real-world financial assistance at stake in the form of scholarships for real women. Right now, real women are facing denial of their existence by the Leviathan of the state. Men can now take their sports titles, their scholarships, money, jobs, and promotional opportunities on a whim just because they decide that. Female athletes have suffered traumatic brain injuries and the loss of ability to play in their sports. If the President of the United States can withhold our children's school lunch funding until we allow men into girls' bathrooms and locker rooms, we most certainly need a Wyoming solution to this Wyoming problem. Men erasing women from existence are not equal rights at all. This bill codifies what we already know. Biological sex is not an option. It's not a hot button issue. It's objective reality. Some people may claim that gender is a separate, subjective condition. Gender, therefore, cannot change objective scientific fact. A quote, "Those who deny the biological differences between a man and a woman are not only erasing women as a category of people, they're denying the existence of objective reality, and the truth becomes whatever those in power deem it to be." And that was said by a nominee for the Director of National Intelligence. I stand for questions. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Good timing. Thank you, Representative Lucas. Any questions from the committee for Representative Lucas? Okay, moving on, thank you. We will move on to public comment, and I'm going to go ahead and separate those who are in favor of the bill and then those who are opposed to the bill. So if there are three chairs up here, if there are 3 members from the audience that would like to come up to testify in favor of the bill, I invite you to do so. Anyone else? There's 1 seat left if you'd like. All right. Okay, sir, why don't you go ahead and state your name and if you are with a group or representing yourself.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Dr. Rich Guggenheim. I'm the Director of Legislation for an organization called Gays Against Groomers. We are an organization of LGBT people who oppose the indoctrination, sexualization, and medicalization of children under the guise of LGBTIQA+. I am here today to ask you to vote yes on HB 0032 and send this to the floor. What is a Woman's Act? Wyoming is hallowed ground for the fight for women's right. It was here in this very building where the 19th Amendment was ratified and women were given the right to vote. It was also in this building that the first female US governor took office. The transgender agenda is fundamentally homophobic, misogynist, and harmful to the freedom and liberties of all of us. Gender ideology and queer theory seeks to compel our speech and strip women of their right to consent and say no to men in their bathrooms, locker rooms, on their fields and courts, and in their prisons. It strips women of their right to privacy and safety and deprives them of hard-earned opportunities in sports, the academy, sciences, and economically. This ideology and agenda are also fundamentally homophobic. Gays and lesbians fought hard for the basic freedoms and liberties to serve our nation in the military, to be secure in housing and unemployment, and to share the legal protections of marriage. And we won those rights. Our rights as gay and lesbians are predicated upon the same rights of women because our rights are sex-based. Children as young as 2 are being subjected to an ideology that suggests a boy who likes pink or a girl who likes to play sports and play with trucks is born in the wrong body. These are the same regressive anti-gay gender stereotypes that gay people have always fought against and is a modern day form of conversion therapy that, ironically, organizations like Wyoming Equality advocate for. Under the guise of inclusivity, we are stripping children of their innocence and robbing them of the freedom to grow up as happy, healthy adults. Vulnerable children are being lied to and preyed upon, coerced into experimental medical procedures where doctors are removing healthy body parts and using off-label drugs that cause lifelong dependency on big pharma and the medical industry. Trans activists have hijacked our language and reduced women to nothing more than a feeling. Gender has become conflated with sex and is
Sir,
now...
I'm going to go ahead and stop you there. You're out of time.
Oh, I just want to ask you again to define women because we cannot protect what we cannot define.
Thank you. And I apologize. Can you state your name again?
Yes, Dr. Rich Guggenheim.
Thank you, Dr. Guggenheim. Any questions from the committee of Dr. Guggenheim? Madam Chair. Yeah, Representative Wasserberger, go ahead.
Dr. Guggenheim, thank you for sharing your testimony today. I heard you make some comments about homophobia. Has there been people that have came and addressed that to you, that there's been kind of an attack on that community from?
This community, yes.
Dr. Guggenheim.
Excuse me, sorry. Yes, Representative Wassenberger, this is very homophobic at its core. We are seeing an ideology that is being advanced from within that suggests it is better for your child to be trans than it is for them to be gay or lesbian. Our rights as gay people and lesbians are being told that they have a transphobic genital preference if they are not willing to allow men into their spaces. Safe spaces for women, including lesbians, are being appropriated and colonized by men who think and believe and feel that they are one of them. This is foundationally homophobic, and until we can define what it means to be a woman, we cannot protect the rights of women, and that includes lesbians.
Thank you, Dr. Guggenheim. Any additional questions? Okay, thank you for your testimony. Representative Ward. please state your name and who you're representing and address the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm Jeanette Ward, and I am representing myself as a private citizen. And thank you for your kindness in recognizing my former status. I come to you very grateful today that this bill is being heard. The people of Wyoming have spoken, and they agree that the privacy and safety of women and men matter. As a doula, I have assisted in over 60 births. While I'm no medical doctor or nurse, I can say one thing with absolute certainty. Women, and women only, are designed to carry and bring babies into the world, and this truth is amazing. While pregnant, a mother's body produces the hormones necessary to support her growing baby until the placenta, an organ her body also creates, takes over. During the second stage of labor, a mother's pelvis widens just enough to bring her baby from the womb and into her arms. A mother's milk changes, adjusting to her infant's nutritional needs as she grows. The biological science of womanhood is a miracle, and it's under attack in Wyoming. I am proud of Representative Lean for carrying this bill forward, which simply defines male and female as society and science has understood these terms forever, until about 5 minutes ago. Those on the left want to erase boundaries that have existed from the beginning of creation. The Creator created them male and female. The evil one has always tried to erase the Creator's boundaries from the distinctions between borders, countries, good and evil, men and women. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Stand strong in standing for the created order and biological and scientific reality and sense, and please pass this bill.
Thank you, former Representative Ward. Any questions? From the Representative Yen.
Madam Chairman, thank you. Representative Ward, thank you for being here. And, you know, as the person who ran this bill last time, I think I will ask you the same question I asked Representative Lean, so maybe you have the answer. Do you know what laws that this would currently apply to that are on the books today?
Former Representative Ward.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I don't know specific laws. However, if you look at the bill, it's saying that the state has compelling interest in recognizing distinctions between male and female locker rooms, prisons, every other. So there could be a myriad of laws that it would affect. And that was Section C and also D in the draft.
Any additional questions from the committee? All right, thank you, former Representative Ward, for being with us. Thank you both for your testimony. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to testify in support of the bill? Come on up.
Madam Chairman,
Representative Yen.
so could I ask that we hear from the public before we hear from other representatives? Because this is the only chance that the public actually gets to testify publicly in front of us, but representatives will have the chance as well in the future. I'm happy to hear from them at the end, but again, it's your prerogative to determine the order.
Looks like we had one senator that's laid back, so we'll move on. Come on up. Sir, if you can go ahead and state your name and who you're representing, and you will have 2 minutes. And my good vice chairman is timing. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, committee members, thank you. My name is Steve Milia, here from Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I'm in favor of this bill. As I think about it, if we have to define women, I guess we have to define men. And then I have to guess we have to define what is a human. And then I have to define we have to define what is a species. If we have a non-definition of women, men, humans, then we have utter chaos. People can come in and define anything they want. Self-identification is is chaos. And then we would have people saying that I'm not human, when clearly, in fact, they would be human. And we have people that do identify as animals or aliens or something else. My question would be, what happens when someone comes up and they say, I am not a human, I am a god, and I'm not subject to any of your laws, you have no authority over me? Are they then free to break all of our laws? How are we going to handle that? If we don't have objective truth, then we have subjective truth. And I can say right now, I can anything I want to be, and you would have to accept it. If you accept non-definition of women, then you have to accept what anybody says, anytime, any place, anywhere. And it's not up to you as a legislature, it'd be up to us as individuals to say, I am this, and you can't say anything against it. So we must have definitions, which we really already have, but people are just denying it. So there are students in our schools at LCD1, at least last year, that were identifying as dogs and cats. And I know one in another state, a seventh grader was identifying as a penguin. We train and educate students, humans, if they are trans species, dogs, cats, etc., they need to go to an animal shelter or a zoo. So if we can't define the women, how can we define absolutely anything else? So I'm in favor of this bill, and I'd like to mirror what the good doctor said over there. He had some very excellent points, and I'm glad that he brought them up, as well as the other speakers, and I stand in favor of this bill. And I stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Milia, for your testimony. Any questions from the committee for Mr. Milia? Seeing none, we'll move on. Ma'am, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself and who you represent and
Thank you,
address the
Madam
committee.
Chairman. My name is Amy Meyer, and good morning to everyone. I'm here as just a constituent of Wyoming, longtime resident, 5 generations, come from a long family of pioneers and understand what it takes to build a community and build a country, and cowboy background as well as entrepreneurs in my family. And then we took a little stint to California, where I was a part of Title IX. As a young girl and athlete, I was always in varsity sports. And then as a little girl, I did not understand why we had to earn our own rides or carpools to our sports teams, basketball, and earn money for our uniforms and things like that. And then I was glad to come back to Wyoming. And at that time, they did not even have a boys cross-country team in the junior high. So I just ran with the boys, and the coaches were very kind in letting me run with the boys. No way could I beat those boys. A few of them I could beat as they're developing in their ages, but later on I could not beat them at all. But it was good training. So what I'm pointing out and what I'm understanding, what I'm observing in our world today is a lot of blurred lines in the medical profession as well as in our laws. And so I'm thinking, this law goes back to our equality of women having the right to vote, because the pioneers knew they needed women. But what I liked, and I grew up in a family of 7 children, 5 brothers, we understood what it was to respect. They understood how to respect women in our bathroom, and my brothers were very respectful for that. And I don't know if that's just how they're raised, but parents today are being blurred. I'd like to use the word blurred. Parents are being kind of blurred out of the schools is what they can say to what their children would like to be taught. And so they don't even know things are being circumvented from their decision as a parent. So for that reason, I understand that Wyoming, if we have to make law as just a building block, as a reference point, as someone had mentioned earlier, if we just need a reference point to decide or to help other states, let Wyoming be the leader again, to just have a reference point as to what a woman is, what a man is, what a boy is, what a girl is. Simple biological things that just need to be outlined again. So if people need reference points, here we are. I'm all for that. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Any questions, please?
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Any questions of Mrs. Meyer from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
All right, well, there's empty chairs, so we'll move on to the next slide. So those that are opposed to the bill from the public, please come forward. We've got 3 chairs up here. And the good vice chair will continue timing where each of you will have 2 minutes to testify. We'll go ahead and begin with you. If you'd like to state your name and who you're representing and address the committee with your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Labor and Health. My name is Sarah Burlingame. I'm the Executive Director of Wyoming Equality, and we are in opposition to this bill. And we're in opposition to this bill, and we want to present you in a rapid-fire 2 minutes with a couple of reasons why. If folks aren't familiar with the Trump-nominated Gorsuch opinion in Bostock, the question in front of the Supreme Court of the United States was, when we say you can't discriminate on the basis of sex, do we just mean boys against girls, or is it inclusive of gender identity and sexual orientation? Different courts had disagreed on it. And what the Supreme Court decided, and what Gorsuch gave the majority opinion was that it was exactly what it meant. And that when we say there shall be no discrimination on the basis of sex, it was inclusive of gender identity and sexual orientation. And I'll email you some information about that if anybody wants to follow up on it. One of the main problems that we see with a bill that we think has good intentions, and we believe the bringer when they say they're interested in protecting the rights of women and they're interested in protecting the rights of LGBTQ folks, is that there are unintended consequences. Namely, no one has addressed how would this be carried out? Who will the state hire to check the genitals of children and adults? Who will they compel to see a doctor that they don't want to see? And do we as Wyoming citizens believe that that is the role of the state? Do we want to use state money to compel someone to do something that they don't want to do with their own bodies? So while it may be well-intended, how it is actually enacted creates a lot of problems. It creates problems for taxpayers. It creates problems for Wyoming citizens like myself who see myself as independent and not at the mercy of the state. One of the other unintended consequences, of course, is that we have folks already, before this law has even gone into effect, policing how people present their gender. So we have young girls in Natrona County who were assigned female at birth, know themselves to be female, but cruel people saying, I think you're too athletic, or I don't like how wide your shoulders are. I don't think we want to see that happen. I would ask you to ask some more questions about this bill and how it's carried out, and I appreciate the time to speak to you, and I'd stand for any questions, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, former Representative Burlingame. We'll move on. Thank you for your, excuse me, forgetting one step here. Are there any questions of Ms. Burlingame from the committee? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on. Please state your name and who you represent, whether that's an organization or yourself as an individual.
Thank you. My name is Santi Murillo. I am the Communications Coordinator for Wyoming Equality. I'm going to be speaking on both behalf of the organization I work for, but also as a trans person living in Wyoming. For those of you who don't know me, I was born and raised in Wyoming. I've been an openly transgender individual since 2017, doing my transition very publicly at the University of Wyoming as a student athlete. I just want to pose a few open questions, if I may, Madam Chairman. There's a discussion of level of comfortability. If I may ask the men on the committee and the men in this room, would you feel comfortable with me in your restroom? If we're going based on biological sex, which I'll never deny, I am a trans woman, would you be comfortable with me in your restroom? For the past 4 years, I have been in this beautiful building with you all, using the women's restroom with no problem, with no issue whatsoever. And I understand that because something hasn't happened yet, doesn't mean something can't. But we need to look at what's happening now. Nothing has happened. And I also want to talk about, if I am to use the men's restrooms, men's locker rooms, that puts me in a level of danger. There's discussions that it doesn't affect the LGBTQ community, but when you talk about the trans individuals that it will affect, it does affect us. Please, I ask you to oppose this bill and think of the safety of the trans individuals in this state. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morello. Any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you for your testimony. And moving on, if you could please state your name and organization, who you represent.
Hello, my name is Grayson Sanchez Hall, and I'm here mostly just representing myself, though I'm familiar with Wyoming Equality. I'm just a Wyoming citizen, and I also happen to be a trans man. I have lived here for over a decade, and I live just a stone's throw from the Capitol. I look like a mess because I rolled out of bed and jogged over here in my clothes to just ask a couple open-ended questions, I guess, as well. So in a similar mirroring fashion, if I go into the women's restroom, how comfortable would you be for me to be in there with you? I've been transitioning for a little over 5 years now. And if I walk into a women's restroom, I am pegged as a man. That makes women uncomfortable. I never intend to make women uncomfortable, so I use the men's restroom. I have used the men's restroom in this building multiple times and have never had an issue. If men see me in the restroom, I have never had an instance where a man thought that I was in the wrong bathroom unless they stared at me for a little too long. But that puts me in a position of danger. So what is someone who is less than a decade into their transition meant to do in a public space? Because in either situation, that puts me in danger, fueling this bias that for some reason a trans person being in the bathroom with you is a problem. The only people who have ever hurt me in a public bathroom were cis-identifying people. That is, people who identify with their biological sex. And I've been harmed in both men's and women's restrooms. I also work here in Wyoming. If this continues and goes past state buildings, what am I supposed to do at work for 8 hours a day if I can't use the work restrooms without either making women uncomfortable or breaking the law? Further, I would just like to challenge what it means to be the equality state, as Wyoming claims to be, when we are attacking people based on how they choose to live their lives. Is that not how Wyoming is meant to be? We're all meant to be here so that we can make decisions for ourselves and live self-governed lives. And I think that this bill entirely stomps on that and entirely spits in the face of what Wyoming is meant to be. That's really all I had to say about it.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Thank you to all of you. Anybody else from the audience like to come up in opposition of the bill? Seeing none. Any further public comment from the audience? Okay, we are going to move on to Zoom land out there. We have several people that want to testify. I would just encourage all those that are out there that want to testify to try and not repeat anything that was said. Bring something new when it comes to your testimony so that we can move forward, and we'll continue to time. We'll go ahead and bring in Marcy Shaver, who will be in opposition of the bill. Ms. Shaver?
Okay, I'm finally here. Yes, my name is Marcy Shaver. I'm from Goshen County, and I'm here just as a concerned community member. I want to bring something to the table that is nobody's mentioned. I was doing a tremendous amount of brain research a few years ago and ran across just a fascinating case study that actually has some bearing on this. It was about, this happened back in the 40s, last century. A young man was born and had body dysphoria. The left arm was not part of his body. He wanted that arm removed, and he fought until he was 43 before he found a surgeon who listened to him, believed him, and removed that arm. He finally felt like his body was the way it was supposed to be, and he went on and lived a long and healthy life, a very happy life. You know, what this case study led to was studies about fetal development, embryonic development, and the brain can develop differently from the physical body. They're still trying to figure out why, but it does happen. We know that from autopsies from deceased trans people that a trans woman's brain is more similar to a woman's brain than it is to a man's brain, and vice versa. There seem to be some underlying very important issues there. So I think the best way to find out if a person is a woman is to ask them to believe them and to trust them to know what's going on inside that brain of theirs. Thank you. I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Shaver. Any questions for Ms. Shaver from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you for being here and joining us. We'll move on to Lynn Bryant, who will be in opposition of the bill.
Madam Chairman, everyone attending online, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom because sometimes people will join but not necessarily want to testify. That way I can tell if you're interested in testifying. Thank you.
Any raised hands out there in Zoom? Oh, there we go. Looks like Hannah Holtmeyer. Welcome. If you can turn on your camera and unmute yourself, we'd love to hear your testimony, and you'll be timed for 2 minutes. So go ahead and begin.
Well, good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to testify on House Bill 32, which I urge you to support. My name is Hannah Holtmeyer, and I'm an independent women's ambassador and a senior at the University of Nebraska. In the fall of 2022, my sisters and I were forced to share our sorority house with a grown man. And since then, we've been working to help women across the country in similar situations. I believe that everyone deserves a safe space where they can relax and open up to others who understand them. For me, that space was my sorority house. And for other women, that space is in the locker room or on the court with their team. When men start to infiltrate these intimate spaces, women are exposed to and forced into uncomfortable situations. I imagine you all probably have a wife, daughter, granddaughter, some important lady in your life. Now imagine you get a call from that woman saying that they were just forced to share their locker room or share their sorority house with a man. Because that's the call my dad got back in 2022. One call he never imagined he'd be getting from me. The first time I called my parents to tell them the news of a man joining my sorority, I left the house, walked to my car, and cried for a moment just trying to make sense of what just happened. Then I placed the call to my parents, who were just as speechless as me. We are all normal college girls who were promised a women's-only sorority experience and suddenly forced to share our female-only space with a man. If you think this issue won't affect you or you're in the clear, think again, because having a male in my sorority didn't just make me and my sisters uncomfortable. It took a toll on our parents, who worried about our safety in a house that once was one of the only places that we felt safe away from our homes. I joined a sorority with the hope of finding a close group of like-minded women and bettering myself throughout my college years, but that hope diminished when a man intruded. When men enter into any women's space, they take valued positions, memberships, opportunities, scholarships from very deserving, hardworking women. I share my experience today to qualify why it's so important for the Wyoming legislature to pass this bill. If passed into law, this bill will help protect women's hard-earned rights in spaces by defining common sex-based words like woman and female, which is already used in 252 unique Wyoming statutes.
Ms. Holtmeyer, you're out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We'll see if we have any questions here for Ms. Holtmeyer from the committee. Seeing none, again, thank you for joining us today via Zoom.
Thank you.
Any further hands up? Okay, it looks like Erin Lee. Erin, welcome to Labor and Health Committee. You'll have 2 minutes to state your testimony. Please state whether you're for or against the bill. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Erin Lee, and I am in support of this bill. I'm a mother of 3 from Wellington, Colorado, which is the last stop on I-25 before Wyoming, or what I like to call South Cheyenne. 3 years ago, my 12-year-old daughter was secretly transitioned into a boy in a secret gender and sexuality club here at Wellington Middle School, causing serious harm to her and to our family. I have since woken up to the many kinds of harm being caused by gender ideology, harms that are very much affecting people in Wyoming. Take, for example, the Kolstad family, the Rock Springs teacher and mother, or the UW Kappa Kappa sisters. In 2024, I co-founded Protect Kids Colorado. We are a broad coalition of concerned parents, grandparents, college kids, teachers, doctors, LGB, Democrats, Republicans, and everyone in between. We ran citizens ballot initiatives, including a law very similar to this, to protect children from being secretly transitioned and to safeguard girls' single-sex spaces. We actually ran a very similar bill, which was promptly run and killed by a party line in Colorado. But we did build a grassroots army of volunteers who had nearly 80,000 conversations around the state of Colorado. And what we discovered is that virtually every citizen agrees with this law. I personally met people who I fundamentally disagree with on just about everything, but this issue brought us together. Most people acknowledge the truth that sex is immutable and there are significant biological differences between males and females. 99% of people we talked to, many of them very progressive, jumped at the opportunity to sign our petitions. Contrary to media coverage and small fringe groups of very loud voices, I'm here to tell you with 100% certainty that this is not a partisan issue. It's actually a unifying issue. Most Americans and the people in Colorado and Wyoming whom I've spoken to agree that single-sex female spaces should be protected. So often we see young girls being forced to stand up for themselves when a biological male enters their sacred space or steals their athletic opportunity. But it shouldn't be up to girls to have to self-advocate, not to have a penis in their private changing area, or potentially physically harming them during practice. Some will say this is a remote issue, but I've spoken to far too many girls and young women and parents and grandparents of affected people who've been affected to know that it's false. Even if you believe it's a remote issue, one girl like Peyton McNabb being irreparably harmed, one athlete like Paula Scanlon having to share her safe space, or one girl like Riley Gaines losing her lifelong dreams is one too many. I encourage you to vote yes on this bill.
Thank you, Ms. Lee, for your testimony. We'll take a look and see if any committee members have questions for you. Seeing none from the committee, thank you for your testimony. Thanks for joining us. Any other hands out there in Zoom?
Madam Chairman, my name is Cassie Craven, and I'm just here representing myself.
Ms. Craven, thank you for joining us. You'll be timed 2 minutes, and if you would state your testimony to the committee.
Thank you, Cassie Craven. Just on behalf of myself today, I would speak in support, in great support of this piece of legislation. I think it offers clarity, which is much needed to our judiciary on this complicated and often politicized issue. This bill doesn't seek to negate the rights of transgender people. I believe that in 2024, we need to start thinking about this issue in a nuanced way. I think transgender people are entitled to their own spaces, but these are not women's spaces that we have worked for decades to preserve and protect through Title IX, through other measures that allow us to be seen as more than just an idea, as more than just a man's identification. Speaking on and in support, and I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Craven. Any questions for Ms. Craven from the committee? Seeing none, thank you again for your testimony and joining us. We're going to take one more Zoom public comment for the sake of time. If there's one more hand out there.
Hello.
Hi, welcome to Labor and Health Committee. If you could please state your name and who you represent and whether or not you are for or against the bill. You'll have 2 minutes to share your testimony with the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Jennifer Hopkins. I'm currently a trustee on the Natrona County School Board, and I'm not speaking on the behalf of the board today. I am a mother of 6. 4 of those are girls. I have some in college, some are in, working full time, and a mother that one of them a mother of 2 children. I am supportive of the bill. I have daughters that have had to deal with the situation, and they would either in their workspace would have to use a restroom with a man or have to wait to use a restroom. That is a great concern to me. We have tried to pass a similar bill in our district here and have failed. This bill clearly states what a woman is, and it would be very helpful in passing policies here for the district schools. I also want to mention that I help mothers with breastfeeding. And because of the confusion, and someone else had mentioned the blurriness of this, that we are expected now to help men with chest feeding and a biological man with chest feeding, which could potentially put us into an unsafe place. We don't know what we're going to be walking into when we go into someone's home. And it's a very awkward thing. And it just leads to so many blurry lines. I support this bill because of its clearness. States what is a woman. And thank you for for the time today.
Thank you for being with us. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you for your testimony.
Okay.
All right. We'll go ahead and close Zoom public comment. And seeing no further public comment, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Committee, what is your pleasure? Do we have any committee members that would like to move the bill? The bill's been moved by Vice Chairman Ottman. Is there a second? Second. Representative Guggenmoss has seconded the bill. Okay, so let's go ahead and work the bill. We'll move through the bill page by page and see if there are any proposed amendments by the committee. Keep in mind, we do have a recommended amendment by the bill sponsor as well that's been provided. So we'll start on page 1. Any proposed amendments from the committee? Seeing none, page 2. Seeing none, page 3. Seeing none, page 4. And if we need to go back, please don't hesitate to go back if you see something. Page 5. Any motion for amendments from the committee? Representative Klauston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a proposed amendment in front of us, and I guess I was reading through it a few times, trying to see how this improves the bill. I guess I would just maybe ask the bringer of the amendment their opinion on how this improves the bill compared to our current bill.
Sure. Thank you, Representative Klauston. We'll go ahead and allow that. Representative Lean, if you can come up and briefly answer Representative Klauston's question as to how your amendment improves the bill.
Chairman, Representative Klauston, what we found in the conversations that have been had is that the legal standing to improve how a judge can solidify the definition of male and female and biological sex is the amended language that will stand in a courtroom versus the XXXY chromosome.
Follow-up, Representative Klauston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Lean. So this is coming from legal advice?
Yes, sir.
Representative Lean.
Oh, sorry, Chairman. Yes, Chairman and Representative Klauston. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lean. Any discussion regarding the amendment, Representative Klauston?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'd like to move the amendment as proposed, brought forward by Representative Lean. I think everyone has a copy in front of them.
So the amendment's been moved, seconded by Representative Guggenmoss. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment moved by Representative Klauston, please state aye. Aye. Opposed? The amendment is passed. And Clayton, you have a copy of that? All right. Any further proposed amendments from the committee? Any discussion on the bill from the committee? Representative Klauston.
Question being called on the bill?
Question's been called on the bill. Clayton, if you'll go ahead, call roll on House Bill 32.
This is a roll call vote for House Bill 32. Representative Klauston.
Aye.
Representative Guggenmoss.
Aye.
Representative Heft. Representative McCann. Representative Ottman.
Aye.
Representative Stivar.
Excused.
Representative Wasserberger. Representative Yen has provided a absentee vote of no. And Chairman Rodriguez-Williams.
Aye.
That is 7 votes aye, 1 no, and 1 excused.
Thank you, Clayton. So House Bill 32 has passed our committee. We will move on to the next bill, which I believe in the order is House Bill 82. Yeah. Okay. All right. Sure. We'll move on to House Bill 82, which is titled Provider Enrollment Standards. This bill was sponsored by Joint Labor, Health, and Social Services during the interim. We're going to go ahead and have Representative Klauston who present this bill. Thank you for your willingness to do that. Representative Klauston, welcome, and if you'd walk us through this bill, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, committee. This is a topic that I brought as a subject to Labor and Health last year as an interim topic. I'll give you a little background on it here. So this topic was brought to the committee's attention at the end of last year's session. I was fortunate to lead a task force all summer dealing with this subject. I'd like to extend my gratitude to the representatives that worked on it. We had all representatives from different insurance companies in Wyoming, the Wyoming Medical Society, Wyoming Hospital Association, as well as the Department of Health and Department of Insurance. So we met in person and in Zoom over the summer. Some very heartfelt discussions. You can imagine providers and insurance companies in the beginning were quite on opposite ends of this subject, but we worked through those issues. You know, one of our primary goals in labor and health has been to reduce healthcare costs in Wyoming, to improve access of care as we have a provider shortage, and then to also decrease the administrative burden on our providers to allow them more time with their patients. Currently, in Wyoming, when you get a new provider, you have to fill out 6 to 15 pages of forms for every single insurance company. So it's very time consuming trying to get a new provider on board. What this bill will do, the Department of Insurance and all the insurance companies have agreed, we're going to come up with one online form. You fill it out once and you're done, and they'll all accept it. So that'll really decrease the administrative burden on everyone. Also, currently in Wyoming, there's really no time constraints for credentialing to happen. So we see often it can take up to 6 months to get a provider credentialed. So you may hire a new provider and it may be up to 6 months till they can see a patient, even though that provider's there and willing to see those patients. So what this will do, it cuts the time frame down to 60 days. So we work through the time frames with all the insurance companies, the process, and I'll walk you through the bill exactly how that works. But again, this will allow our providers to see patients sooner, and we'll have them here in place. Again, I just really want to thank everyone's efforts on this. This is probably how legislation should take place. We got all of the interested parties in the room and worked through the problems together. So this bill passed unanimously through the committee, through the joint committee. So it's got wide-ranging support on both sides of our chambers. With your permission, I'll just quickly walk you through the bill.
Representative Clouston, please.
Okay. First page just talks about what it's about, definitions. Second page is a little bit more into definitions. The important part here being completed or incomplete, and we'll get into that a little bit in the meat of the bill. So on page 3, when you go to line 17, the insurance carrier has 7 days to get back to the person trying to be credentialed to let them know that they've received their application, either in written or electronic form. And this is kind of when the time clock for that 60 days starts. So once they receive it, they have 60 days total to get the credentialing process completed. They have the 7 days to let them know they've received their application, but that's the beginning of the 60 days. As they go through it, if they find something is not complete, they'll send it back to the applicant within 30 days and let them know that something's incomplete. That applicant now has 30 days to go ahead and complete it. If they don't complete it in those 30 days, the 60-day time clock calendar starts over. Page 4, so again, it just talks about the 60 days. And quite honestly, the timeframes were the hardest discussion with all the insurance companies, making sure that they could reasonably get that done for all the providers in Wyoming. And that's really the meat of the bill is timeframes, making it one online form versus separate forms for everyone. And then the Department of Insurance will work with the insurance carriers to come up with that form that's needed.
Thank you, Representative Clouston. Are there any questions from the committee for Representative Clouston about the content of the bill? Sure.
Thank you. Just curious, Madam Chair, sorry. Sir, when they were I'm a PA by trade, and I don't see this because they usually have people do this for us. So I was just curious what the insurance companies, what did they say took so long? Why was it so long that I'm glad you got it sorted out, but I'm curious, that's all.
Thank you, Representative McCann. Representative Klauston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. McCann. And glad to know your background. I feared I was the only healthcare provider left in the House. So it really came down just to the number of applications that they receive and the workforce they have available to work on all these. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Any additional questions for Representative Klauston? Okay, seeing none, Representative Ottman, go ahead.
Madam Chair, Representative, good to see you. I was wondering on page 3V, it says health carrier does not mean pharmacy benefit managers, because I know that there's some time issues in there. So it doesn't include them because that should be separate, or because they do a wonderful thing, or if you could clarify that. And then if you wouldn't mind, on the back, it gives different, or on the last page, it gives different dates for coming into effect. And I was just kind of wondering if you could just, and this is just for clarification, so I understand what the discussion was. Thank you.
Representative Klauston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative, for the questions. So pharmacies are credentialed in Wyoming, not the pharmacy benefit manager, right? That's kind of a different tier in our medical system. So, yep. And then as far as, and if someone else, we've got representatives here from insurance companies, and if they want to speak to that too. But as far as dates, this act is effective July 1st, 2025. Was there?
Representative Ottman, your question.
Madam Chair, Representative, yes, in section 4, it says on or after July 1st, and then going down to line 15, it says sections 2 and 5 are effective immediately. So I was just wondering if I wasn't in those interim committees, so I just didn't know what the difference was in the action of the bill.
Representative Klauston.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative. So maybe somebody else I might phone a friend on that. I don't remember why we had put in different dates. To me, the July 1st, but if someone else could maybe speak to that, and we'll see if we can figure that out for you.
Thank you, Representative Klauston. Okay, we will bring up any, thank you for introducing that bill on our behalf. We'll bring up any government agencies, department heads, fellow legislators that would like to testify. Welcome. If you'd please state your name and who you represent.
My name's Jill Reinking. I'm the Senior Health Policy Analyst for the Department of Insurance. And I'm just up here to say, as Representative Klauston stated, we did have a good working group over the summer, and we did work through a lot of the issues. The Department of Insurance will be in charge of the uniform credentialing application, and our intention is meeting with the groups that are going to be submitting those applications to come to one uniform form. With regard to the question with Section 4 and then Section 5, I believe Section 5B, Sections 2 and 5 of the Act are effective immediately so that we can start the rules process if we need to, and to get the application process going so that it's in place and ready to go on the July 1st. So if there are any other questions.
Thank you, Ms. Reinking. Any questions from the committee of Ms. Reinking? Seeing none. Thank you. Don't go far. There might be more that come up. You never know. Anybody else? Any other agencies? Okay. Moving to public comment on the bill. Please come forward if you'd like to testify on the bill. I'm sure we can take turns with those seats. Oh. All right, who would like to go first?
Madam Chairman,
Mr. Boley, please state your name and who you represent.
thank you, Madam
Good
Chairman,
morning.
committee members. Eric Boley, President of the Wyoming Hospital Association.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. Sheila Bush with the Wyoming Medical Society.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. Kelsey Prestisator, Government Affairs with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, Mike Mosier, and members of the committee. Mike Mosier, Cigna, also speaking on behalf of the Mountain Health Co-op and the Pharmaceutical Care Management Association, all of which were parts of this coalition.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Denise Burke, and I represent CVS, Caremark, and Aetna.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Raymond Redd, Vice President and General Counsel for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming.
Madam Chairman, if I may, we thought we'd bring you an easy bill after the first one today, and it's a great way to start off. And you probably won't see this happen very often, to see a coalition like this get together. We actually passed some major legislation last year that had to do with prior authorizations. We all sat at the same table after the hard work that we'd done. And believe me, it has been hard work. We've had some very serious conversations to finally arrive at the bill that you have before you. But this is an important issue. And we're grateful for the partnerships that we've had with the insurance carriers and with our other partners with the Medical Society and others. As our hospitals and as our medical practices recruit new providers into the state, we want to get them to work as quickly as possible. It's an expensive process. Recruiting providers into our state is getting more and more difficult. We're seeing shortages in areas, and so the last thing we want to do is bring them in and have impediments or barriers to them beginning their practices. So this bill does a great job in addressing that, and we need to get them to work and give access to care to the patients that need them in all of our communities. So we worked really closely with Representative Clouston on this, and we have all agreed to this. And we have examples with the credentialing process. You'll find that it's all over the board on how long it takes. Even within our own state Medicaid can get credentialing done and privileging done in less than 7 days. Medicare is somewhere around 30 days. And so what we thought we would try to do is to create some standards. We've seen legislation passed in other states. New Mexico is a great example. A couple of years ago, they passed legislation and they got it down to 45 days. And then this last year, they actually shortened it down to 35 days. So we think that we've kind of reached that sweet spot with 60 days, realizing that it's a difficult process. And so the standardized form is so important, because then we're not filling out multiple applications, and the insurance carriers can decide what information they need to make sure that they get that done. And right now, they have different application processes. So they may end up getting more information than they want, but they'll have everything that they need. And so we think that this is a really solid bill. We're excited to see it move forward, and we're excited to have access to care for our patients around the state and to support the providers that we bring in. With that, I'd answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Boley. Any questions from the committee to Mr. Boley or anyone on the coalition? Representative Wasserberger.
Yeah, thank you for coming and speaking today. I was just curious, it says it would shorten the timeline for you guys to be able to get people to work. Do you think this would help with considering costs on your guys' end for like insurance companies and things like that, with helping people get to do the job a little bit quicker?
Mr. Boley.
Madam Chairman, Representative Wasserberger, we do believe this will really shorten that timeline. And our people have to do their work too. There's provisions in here. If we don't do the application right, it starts that timeline over. But with a standardized form, we think that we'll create efficiencies and be able to get that done quicker so they can get to work.
Madam Chair.
Follow up, Representative Wasserberger.
Sorry for the lack of clarification. Do you think it'd help with your costs with that as well?
Madam Chairman, Representative Wasserberger, it's expensive to have people filling out applications, following up on and working on that. So we do see that there will be some administrative costs that'll be decreased by this.
It'd be decreased?
Yeah.
Representative Wasserberger.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Any further questions, Mr. Boley or of members of the coalition? Representative McCann.
Thank you, Madam Chair. More of a comment. As a provider, thank you for doing this because I can just imagine what the providers were saying in these meetings is there's a lot of heartburn when it comes to that. So it's more of a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative McCann. Any further questions or comments for members of the coalition? Seeing none. Thank you all for being here with us.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Any further public comment in the audience on House Bill 82? Please come forward. Okay, Clayton, do we have anybody on Zoom? Okay, seeing no public comment awaiting on Zoom and nobody coming forward to fill these chairs, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Committee, what is your pleasure on the bill?
Move the bill.
The bill's been moved by Representative Yin, seconded by Representative Ottman. We'll go ahead and work the bill. Do we have any proposed amendments? We'll go page by page. Please speak up if you have a proposed amendment. Okay, starting with page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4 or 5. Page 6. Okay, we have a quiet committee. Seeing no proposed amendments for House Bill 82. Would we like question being called by Representative Yin? Clayton, if you'd go ahead and call the roll.
This is a roll call vote for House Bill 82. Representative Clouston?
Aye.
Representative Guggenmoss?
Aye.
Representative Heft? Representative McCann?
Yes.
Representative Ottman?
Aye.
Representative Stivar?
Excused?
Representative Wasserberger? Representative Yin?
Aye.
Chairman Rodriguez Williams?
Aye.
Madam Chairman, that is 8 aye and 1 excused.
Okay, House Bill 82 has passed our committee. Do I have a volunteer to carry that on the floor? Or Representative Clouston, thank you. All right, committee. We have one more bill on the agenda, and I'd like to just reiterate to those on the committee and those in the audience that we do gavel in early this morning for the state of the state. And it looks like this one's pretty, let's see. We've got 121, right? Yeah. House Bill, I should put my glasses here. House Bill 121, titled Hospital Pricing Transparency. I think we'll go ahead and move forward on this bill and see how far we get. And if we have to carry it over to the next meeting, we can do that. So this bill is sponsored by Representative Singh. Representative Singh, if you'd be willing to come forward and introduce your bill to our committee.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just give me a second to gather my bearings here. All right. Well, thank you again, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Daniel Singh, and I'm from House District 61, and I'm presenting to you hospital pricing transparency. While it appears to be a longer bill, this is a simple concept, in my opinion, that will bring protection to consumers in the healthcare industry. And the purpose of this bill is really to ensure that the prices that are displayed prices are displayed to the public when it comes to the services that are available to hospitals, not only when it comes to insurance providers, but also to the cash payment that would be available as well. So this does a couple of things. It requires that there is a viewable menu of the prices that are available for the different services that each hospital provides. It goes through the requirements of a machine-readable format, which is a digital representation of information that can be imported onto a computer, a payer-specific negotiated charge for each different type of insurance provider that they would be having the negotiated prices of what they would be paying would also be available to the public as well. The shoppable services, which again, requiring that every procedure listed on this bill is available, and the most common services that are available to the public, that each of them are publicly available, that there is no extra sort of process for them to be available to the public, that it's easily available. And then any of the services that are not in compliance, or any of the services that are not actively available, that it's for whatever reason that the hospital is not in compliance, this bill also makes it so that the hospital is not able to acquire any debt on those services, as the folks that were receiving those services did not have a transparent price, access to a transparent price to the service that they provided. And so that is the purpose of the bill. And I would like to invite former Minority Leader Patrick Neville to come and assist with the explanation of this bill as well.
Thank you, Representative Singh. Please come forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. Patrick Neville, I'm a recovering politician, and this month marks 2 years sobriety from elected office for me. So thanks for having me. And even though I'm from down south, my license plate is Bronze Star Plate, so I'm not a greenie, so please try not to hold that against me. But thank you for having me. This bill has been done in several different states. It's one of the key pieces that I got done my last year in Colorado. What it does is it mirrors the federal rules. So there are federal rules that have been in existence on this, started with the President Trump administration in 2019, were signed by President Biden in 2021. Those rules have not really been enforced at the federal level. And quite frankly, most states can enforce rules better than the federal government can anyway. And so what this bill does is it gives Wyoming the ability to enforce those rules, codifies those rules into state statute. One of the key things that this bill does that no other bill in the nation except for Ohio just beat you guys to it on January 2nd was signed into law, is it also clarifies that the bills have to be in a dollars and cents amount, which sounds like common sense, but the rules did change federally, saying that they could post prices in algorithms or percentages. So it just says the prices have to be posted in a dollar amount. And then the final thing it does is it actually gives consumers some recourse. This is the major thing that I did in Colorado in 2022. So it says if a price was not posted, was not transparent, then the hospital goes to sue the patient. The patient has an affirmative defense for the full amount of the bill plus attorney fees. This has been in effect in Colorado for over 2 years now. There's been 2 lawsuits that I'm aware of. So a lot of times you hear, oh, this is going to lead to all these frivolous lawsuits. What typically happens, we actually saw a patient. She was given an estimate for $1,500 out of pocket. Hospital came back and billed her for over $70,000. She said, go ahead, send me to collections because I know I have this right. The hospital came back and said, you're correct. Our mistake, billing error, and $1,500. So she went ahead and paid it. So that's how it's practically working. This has been done, like I said, in Ohio, Rhode Island has a similar bill. Oklahoma passed the consumer protection piece. Several other states throughout the nation have done this. And a lot of times you'll hear, well, we give an estimate. The federal rules to have an estimate is only one piece of compliance. The big thing the federal rules require is that all the prices are posted in a machine-readable format by CPT code or DRG code. And so what that does is it actually gives the tech aggregators the ability to come in and develop the tools for businesses and consumers to actually go out and shop for healthcare and create a competitive market. And that's what's happening in Colorado. There's different people out there like Talon Health, Turquoise Health that are starting to utilize this and give the abilities for businesses to find lower healthcare costs for their employees, and then also consumers to find lower options. You might see that, I think on average, the cash-based price is typically on average 40% lower than the lowest negotiated insurance price. And so for a consumer on a high deductible plan, they may choose that cash price as well. And this is something that typically, what I've seen in general is very friendly to the MDs and RNs and PAs as well, because they want to give their patients those options. The patients know the price, they can move forward. A lot of times I'll see the opposition, it's more from the MBAs in the system. So this is can't speak to Wyoming specifically, but what I've seen nationwide is lots of different interest groups have supported this, from America First Policy Institute to Foundation for Accountable Government, FGA, quite a few others, but I don't want to speak on their behalf because I don't know if they've had a chance to weigh into the Wyoming bill. That's just been my experience as a legislator that they were very helpful with this. Open for any questions.
Thank you, former Representative Neville. Any questions from the committee for the sponsor of the bill? Representative Yin.
Madam Chairman, thank you. Representative Singh and Mr. Neville, welcome to Wyoming, the best state in the country. I'm interested in the bill. I like price transparency. So you stated that there's at least one state that talks about just holding accountable, the state holds accountable or adds liability when enforcing the federal rules rather than just copying wholesale into state rule. What's the difference between doing that versus Representative Singh, what your bill does, which is basically have a new set of rules and then ask the department to come with us with amendments every time CMS rules change?
Representative Singh or former Representative Neville?
Certainly, I can answer that. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Yin. So there are some states that have chose to codify it. This bill almost mirrors those federal rules perfectly right now, except for making sure that prices are in dollars and cents. Like I said, that's pretty common sense, since that's what other states have chosen to do. Go ahead and put that in their state statutes. And then it does give some flexibilities to the department. So there are some very complex things, like what format should the hospitals be posting these files in? That gets super complex. So it really gives the department more of that type of authority, so that as the federal rules change, maybe new technology comes out, or there's a new format, maybe it's JSON or CVS file works best for Wyoming, they can have flexibility, also making sure that it's in conjunction with the federal rules. The idea being that if you're compliant with the Wyoming rules, you're also compliant with the federal rules. So it's not like there's two different standards that they have to comply with. They can do both at the same time.
Representative Closton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I have several questions. So first of all, as I read this, does this only apply to public hospitals, private hospitals? I mean, it says hospitals. What facilities does this pertain to?
Representative Singh or former Representative Neville?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Closton, this is just mirrors the federal definitions of hospital. So it'd be any state licensed hospital. So if it's licensed as a hospital as a state, that's what it applies to, which mirrors the federal rule as well. So you have ambulatory surgical centers, things of that nature it doesn't apply to. What we see is typically they'll post their price because they're typically more competitive. So they're already posting their price and they want to post their price. So there's probably not a need in those circumstances. So it's just the state licensed hospitals.
Thank you. Follow up, Representative Closton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there Are all things posted? So I guess my question is how detailed does this get? Are we getting down to Band-Aids and needles individually? Is there a minimum? I'm just thinking of the workload that maybe, will this increase the workload on our hospitals?
Former Representative Novell or Representative Singh?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative, they're already supposed to be doing it federally, so I don't think it's going to require, increase the workload. What it does do is says that by CPT code, so if it's a service they offer, typically the hospitals already have a price or this is already put out for them because there's requirements from the federal government when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid that they have those prices posted. I, as a conservative Republican, didn't want to get into like how much you're paying your doctors and how much you're paying your nurses and get to that level of detail. Just what is the price? And then the economics can actually work. And what we see is sometimes prices within the same hospital system can be 10 times difference depending on your insurance. So it gives those businesses the ability to go, maybe this insurance carrier, because we can actually see the price, is not negotiating us a good deal. And that's where the true savings comes from. But it's not, the idea behind the bill is like I said, the only other difference from the federal rules is that they have to post the prices in dollars and cents within that machine readable file. And so it's not an extra additional workload on top of what they're supposed to be doing. And what we also see is a lot of the small rural hospitals are already doing a great job at this, your critical access care hospitals, because for them, the federal government can come in and the fines, I think, are up to like $4 million. It's a big deal. So for them, that's a death blow. It's usually the larger systems that want to try to not play as nice and not show their prices.
Thank you. Representative Clouston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to you both. I mean, I appreciate this bill and the sentiments that you have shared. I guess my only concern is this needed? I mean, both times I've heard you say we're following what the feds are already doing. And now with this bill, we're going to put some increased burden and costs on the taxpayers of Wyoming to make sure that this is all being followed. So I guess I just need to hear that we need this in Wyoming because the feds are there. If they're already following that, I just have a little concern that we may be adding to our government and our government's responsibilities when maybe we don't need to.
Representative Singh.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and Representative Clausen. I do think it's essential that we put this into Wyoming statute, primarily because of the fact that this was initially put into place by the previous presidential administration, and then our current presidential administration changed the rules. And so in order to make sure that this stays in place as a protection for consumers in Wyoming, we need to write this into our green books.
Thank you. Any further questions of the sponsor of the bill from the committee? Okay, seeing none. And Representative Singh, can you confirm whether or not there's a fiscal note attached to this bill?
Yes, Madam Chairman. There is a fiscal note. Let me go ahead and pull it up. Oh, there should be. There was a fiscal impact to the additional burden that would put on the Department of Health, but this bill in front of you doesn't have it.
Okay, LSO Clayton.
Madam Chairman, there is not a fiscal note, but there is a statement of administrative impact, and that is provided for the committee as well.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have heard an overview of this bill, House Bill 121. We are going to carry this over to our next meeting and listen to public comment on the bill at our next meeting because we have to be in our seats by 9:45 for the state of the state. I apologize to those in the audience that want to testify on this bill. Please join us next time and bring your comments. Thank you to our bill sponsors again. Thank you to the committee. We will see you at the next meeting, and this committee meeting is adjourned.